is the review of the minutes, which is right below the budget. The minutes from our meeting on May 18th. It's a one-pager. Does anybody have, well, I guess since this was really the work of the committee, approval, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor of accepting the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
And the next item is review of the budget documents and adopt the FY 2023-24 budget.
And this is still the budget committee?
This is the budget hearing, public hearing.
Oh, sorry.
The committee's work was finished
Okay,
last
gotcha.
month, so committee itself.
And this is the budget as approved by the committee last month?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, it went through the approved by budget committee column and then adopted by the governing body is what we're doing this evening.
So you need a motion.
Yes.
I'll
Well,
So then we can discuss
let's
it.
see. Wait a minute. Yeah, resolution adopting the budget for 23-24. And you moved?
I moved.
Yes,
Do
I
I have to read anything?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Do we?
No-
Is there
no
anything
title,
to be
yeah.
read?
You have to read the title.
Okay.
Okay.
I would move adoption of resolution 2301, resolution adopting the budget.
Second.
And that's one or two items down is that resolution 2301. Okay, any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor of adopting resolution 2301, say aye.
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 All right.
And I would like to thank Jerry for his hard work and putting this together along with the people here.
Those people.
Yeah, those
I
at the end.
appreciate it, but thank you on their behalf. Okay, I'll do these now.
There being no further comments, that concludes the FY 2023-24 budget hearing meeting. We'll open the regular board meeting of June 15, 2023. Call the meeting to order. And just backing up, we started at 5:31, I believe.
I
I
did,
have.
when you started it, I did 5:32.
Or 5:32?
Yeah.
Just so we have that for the record. And now we're at 5:35.
Or 5:35, correct.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and approval of the agenda. Should. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Everybody's very quiet. All in favor of accepting the agenda as written, say aye.
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 Yes, we have none. Public comments, we have none. Board questions, comments, and discussion. Is there anything anybody wants to bring up at this
I'm
point?
curious what the status, I think the last I remember, we were going to get a correspondence from DEQ after they came and looked at the Netarts pump station. Have we heard from them?
Nope.
No, the reason we're having no executive session is zero.
I haven't heard anything from them or the other requests, which I'll get to in just a moment.
Resounding silence. Okay, thanks.
It doesn't mean they aren't trying to figure out, certain people at DEQ, what they can do to make things challenging. Okay.
So I had,
Yes, sir.
has anybody from the public made any comments about the
User fee? No.
Yeah.
I haven't received one email or phone call. I'm also on there for the website for any emails that come in.
We
and
haven't
nothing.
gotten, none of the phone calls have been bad or.
Yeah. Good. Good to know.
Yeah, I think Netarts Water came right behind us and said $8 a month, raising theirs.
Yeah.
So we were at 5, so we're a good deal.
Or Marty.
All right. The next item, any other comments or discussion? Review of the minutes of the regular May 18th, 2023 board meeting.
Yes.
And that should be right below the budget committee meeting.
There you go.
I confuse you.
So, a motion to accept the minutes.
Move to accept the minutes.
Second,
Second.
discussion?
I note that the wording that had been bothering me in the past has been changed, and I appreciate that.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Financial statements for review of all funds as of May 31st. A motion to accept the financial statements.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second
discussion.
Anything you want to particularly call to our attention, Dan? Any surprises?
No, we'll see exactly where we're at by the end of, by next month's board meeting for the end of June, but we should be fine.
We have our arrears list yet?
Yes.
it. Yeah, it's not
It's in the back end.
Oh.
Shorter list than usual.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the financial statements, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
I noticed that there was one that hooked up.
All right. And review of May 2023 board accounts payable. Not an action item, but nevertheless, under review.
Could somebody remind me what the annual Springbok dues are?
Springbrook is our software that we use.
Any questions or further discussion? All right. We'll move on to the district report. It's all yours, Dan.
And the treatment plant in May is running quite well, as you can see by the results. It's 99% efficient. We have no real collection system work scheduled for June, and we're still trying to get all our schedules and still training the new employees, so it'll take a little while longer. Lincoln's being trained on the cameras, so we'll have Brian in. So we'll have 2 operators to run the camera system, so we're getting that done. The Capes One pump station, the leak, I finally got a hold of Vince at Emery and Sons. And I think all we're going to do is change out the 20-foot ductile iron that is leaking, replace it with the same type of material. At some point, we will look at rehabbing the wet well and the valve vault there in a few years. We'll budget for it, and we'll change out all the stainless steel like all of our newer remote pump stations. That's the one that's leaking. It's not a major emergency yet, but it shows its erosion. And this material's been in there since 1993, so it's not like it's bad stuff. It's just, you know,
It's 20 years.
yeah, 19
So we're
over
replacing it with
30.
Same, yeah.
Well, we're gonna replace it with the same for now, but we will upgrade it later to
Because
welded
another
stainless.
30 years is okay.
Well, everything else that we're hooked to it is still over 30
Oh,
years.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but this one won't fail, okay? Before the rest of it
Well,
fails.
no, this is only a section we're changing.
Yeah,
Just one section out
right.
of several.
But that section won't fail before the rest of the system needs replaced, probably. He's not gonna say that.
The age of the existing pipe that we're not, normally what I would do is I would go in and replace it all with updated materials.
Right.
But due to the cost and what we already have going on with the manual transfer switch and portable generators, that's a little too much to take on right now. So what I'm suggesting is we're gonna patch it for now, and that will buy us several years, provided that none of the older or other ones give up, but it's just a patch for now.
Understood.
So I've contacted Emery and Sons. They'll have to come in with their cranes. This is a 25-foot deep wet well. We don't have the equipment to change this type of stuff out, but they do, since they've built all of our other pump stations. So I sent him over the information I got from the engineers today, and we got some video stuff he wants to get for us, and for him, and some measurements, and so then he can give us a price what it would take to fix it. So I should have something hopefully by next board meeting.
And is there a chance that, in the process of removing the old pipe, something else breaks?
Yes. That's why we're going to send the camera in. We're gonna try to video around as much as we can with the camera. Remember, the camera we're using is for pipes. So we're gonna go vertical with it and get as much information as we can. We could discover through the video that there's more potential failure and damage when we get into that. But the initial plan now is to change out the 20-foot, the two spools that are in there of straight 4-inch pipe. Plus ductile iron, you go back with that because it's flange to flange. Usually stainless steel is welded together on the joints. And you don't know, I talked about maybe putting this section as stainless, but then it'd just be throwaway. It'd be expensive pipe to throw away because the new stainless won't, it won't come with the welded flanges on it, and you're putting two dissimilar metals together, and then you've got erosion problems, corrosion. So the engineer said absolutely not, either you do one or the other. So the best option, the least expensive, is to go ahead and put back the same ductile iron pipe that's already existing in there. So the plant pump station, I told you last month, had a pump failure. The cost to rebuild the old 10-plus-year-old pump was within a few $100s, replacing it with the new energy efficient conserver pump. So I chose instead of that, plus instead of a 1-year warranty, now with this new pump we'll have a 5-year warranty on it. And it is an energy saver. And that's where, as we change our pumps out to the new ones, we'll be going with those. There's been no correspondence from DEQ since we had the visit for the Netarts pump station area down there. So I don't know where that stands at this moment. I don't know what decisions they have made. Treatment plant, we just got an update. Our valves have shipped, or will be shipping on the 7th of July.
I didn't know whether, can you mention the fact that we have another person from DEQ taking an interest in what's going on here and requested us to
That's what I,
But you were getting to that.
yeah,
Okay, I'm
but,
sorry.
but anyway, no, I can do
I'm
it
sorry.
now. I was done with that unless there's
Okay.
any questions on that. So it's still looking like into August, sometime first September, before we can actually install the new air valve on the basin one. It's getting close to permit renewal for our discharge, our NPDS permit. And I was contacted by the permit writers at DEQ, and they requested, put me on notice, they're gonna request for us to test and run samples on the Pacific Ocean.
I figured you would appreciate
Um,
that.
we don't test the Pacific Ocean. We never have. They want temperature.
It's a big ocean.
It's a big pond.
It's a big
They want us to test for pH, temperature, I can't remember what the other two were, but anyway, those are physical samples you have to take. And I explained to DEQ that we can't sample from the open ocean. That our outfall is nearly a mile out and 60
so
feet, 60 feet deep.
Now, were they explicit about doing it at where the outfall comes out, or not?
They don't want it taken next to the outfall. They don't know exactly where they want it taken. They don't want it taken from the beach. And they said usually what they do is somebody will go out on a dock. We don't have a dock. And it has to be open ocean. And the engineers are scratching their heads as well because the currents change. I mean, we already have, mix, flow and mix data when we size the diffuser.
Newport and Seaside do this.
The only thing that I asked for references on where else they've had this with anybody that holds an NPDS permit and discharges to the Pacific Ocean. Only one has been Brookings, Oregon. Newport does not discharge the Pacific Ocean. They discharge into the bay. Garibaldi discharges into the bay. Twin Rocks and Rockaway discharge into the ocean. Pacific City discharges into the river.
And
But I know that Surfrider does water testing that they send to the state. So I don't know, and I know
Oh.
it's not in the bay.
I've sent a series of questions to the permit writer,
Just,
and I haven't heard back. He was supposed to send me a draft in 2 weeks. Well, that was last week. I still haven't heard anything. So it's easier, I'll be honest with you, it's easier to get a boat and go out in Brookings because they have no bar to cross on the checkout. Okay, it's a little different here. And he said, well, other jurisdictions have hired boats. I said, just put me in touch with one of them. I'd like to see how they did it. Well, the only one he could find was Brookings. And he doesn't even know what their request or parameters, what their testing was. So I don't know what good it's going to do, but if it's not done, we run the risk of them being conservative when they write the new discharge permit. I don't know what that means.
and who does the analysis of the samples?
He hasn't given me the parameters on what they want.
There's no
Because
specificity.
We don't
in the
have
request.
the
No, no.
scientific capability to do that.
In my opinion, it was poorly requested. I haven't gotten a draft that I was supposed to get on the testing criteria.
Because, there's a timeline.
Yes, like all of our tests are on a timeline.
Right, so-
And after so long, the samples are no longer valid.
Right.
So there'll have to be a chain of custody, but I just can't go hire a fishing boat out of Garibaldi and get them all the way down here. And I don't have any coordinates where they even want the testing. They know they don't want it over top of the outfall. But that's all they know.
And how deep is the outfall?
At 60 feet at mean low tide. We just had divers out there last week, and they had less than 10 feet visibility.
So,
And if they
do
were-
they have a time that this needs to take place?
Our permit renewal process will start in 2024, and our permit is up for renewal in 2025.
Oh, well. Yes, we just put that in the file.
So
in a
generally,
file.
they have you test at least, they like 18 months to 2 years. So their timing of requesting this is about normal.
Okay.
This request is highly abnormal. We don't have the equipment here to test for that stuff in the ocean.
Right.
And do they have a comparative spot? Like you're testing, you kind of want to know what you're comparing to, right? So it just,
Typically, no parameters at all. It's not- so
Yeah,
go
they've given,
test the
there's no
ocean.
specificity, no
To
parameters, no
anything,
nothing.
other than
Just
we-
go out there and do it.
Yeah, he said, all I got was an email saying, we want you to start testing Pacific Ocean, and we want you to test for the pH and the temperature and that stuff. But
okay.
So Simeon, do you have some test tubes with corks in them at home?
you're a help. So anyway, they're not even sure that where to test,
I was thinking
but
kayak.
they,
Yeah, you kayak right off the beach and you just go out there a little ways and you take it.
Okay.
there has to be, in all seriousness though, there has to be a chain of custody. It has to be somebody that is certified to grab legal samples for water, wastewater, things like that. It's a little more complicated, I believe, than what the permit writer
And
was
you
probably-
usually have a sheet that you get from the state, the ambient temperature outside, date, time, that kind
Who
of-
grabbed the sample, the whole
Right.
chain of custody.
Right.
Yeah, they usually
So,
send
but
you
they
what
didn't
bottles
send
they
that.
want. Bottles are labeled with what they want in them,
certain kind of bottles.
certain kind of bottles, and then where do you send for the testing?
Which has to be done within X amount of hours.
Yeah, you'll have to pack it with ice packs and, and a special cooler, and you'll have to, airmail it somewhere, but usually it's 24 hours. So, that, I don't know, that could affect our budget, which we just approved the budget. They hit us with this, and hiring boats and even hiring somebody, a company that does it to go sample it, isn't going to be free. And there's no parameter on how many samples, how far apart, do they want one a week, one a month, one every quarter? We just don't know.
There's a big ship out there tonight picking up pots really close in, just get some major. Okay,
So anyway, moving on from that, that's all the information I have.
So could you just go over real quick what might happen, that they would reduce our allowed levels?
So,
What
his
impact
email
might-
stated was if we don't do the testing, which I don't think they would force us to do it, safety, they said, is number one. I can't have the guys run out and surf and grab a sample. But, that they would have to write our new discharge permit more conservative. That means, like right now, we have what's called a 30-30 discharge permit, 30 milligrams of BOD, 30 milligrams of total suspended solids. They could lower that, make the discharge even tighter. So they could lower it to a 20-20, a 15-15, a 10-10. To let you know, our treatment plan is designed to run a 10-10 effluent. That's the max it runs, and that's usually what it runs now. So, and that's usually what they do for discharging into rivers, that doesn't have the dilution factor that the Pacific Ocean has. So that's where our treatment plant is set up. That's what it's designed to run at a 10-10.
So that even if they wrote a more conservative discharge permit, we're likely would comply.
If they wrote it not any tighter than a 10-10. If they did tighter than a 10-10, we would not comply. And then we would have to probably be forced to do more sewer plant upgrades.
But does anybody else have to run at 10-10 or less that you know of?
I think Pacific City is close to that, but they're discharging into that small river right there. Okay, so usually that's your parameters, the smaller receiving string. Usually get you a tighter permit. I can't imagine them changing our permit in the Pacific Ocean, especially far out as ours. And we did all the mix zones and everything that they required to put what size of diffuser out there for the mix zones. So, but right now we're just shooting in the dark. We try to figure out what they're thinking. I have no idea.
When the boat was out there recently doing their testing, did they take samples on body discharge? Was that part of what they were doing?
That's not, the dive, it's a construction dive team. They go down and they're more of the nuts and bolts. They check the physical condition of the outfall, of the diffuser, nuts and bolts that hold the flanges together, things like that. They do a report on marine growth, barnacles, clams, and that type of stuff that's on the diffuser and the pipe. How much sand is there, how much pipe is sticking out for sand movement and stuff like that. So it's just physical. And then we have to pump water out with dye in it so they can verify through the video that the outfall is operational and the water is coming out. Which I just got the video today, so, and the report. So we passed. Everything was in great shape.
And the starfish, we're not keeping the diffuser flaps closed.
No starfish this time.
Huh.
Barnacles and clams.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen clams on it before, but
They're probably
I
trying
can-
to escape the low surf where
I
they-
can send all of you the email with the report and the video on it. Because it's a link, nobody's
I'd
seen
be
it.
curious to see it. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I was thinking that, what an interesting job.
Well, if you ask them,
Visibility.
considering it was cold and
Yeah.
they were blind down there, they had a hard time finding it because they couldn't see, their visibility was less than 10 feet. Which you'd see in the video. Yeah. Even with the bright lights they have on their helmets, you could still barely see anything. And then they pressure wash it, and they clean the barnacles off, and they have to inspect all the bolts and stuff like that. So it's completed, and it passed. And it was, last was 2 years ago it was inspected.
There's a long forward history of this whole system.
Yeah.
We don't have time to go into right now.
No, we need to.
But,
We're still waiting for the electrical engineers to give us the requirements for the new generator we talked about with DEQ for the Netarts pump station and the manual transfer switch. Everybody seems to be shorthanded. We're still on schedule for the Oceanside pump station, manual transfer switch work. We're still on schedule for that, but even the contractor's asking, hey, we need something from you soon so we can give you the cost of the change order. So I've got West Tech pushing the electrical engineers again to get this done.
just ballpark, when did they start, when did you ask them to start looking at this?
I believe it was last September, October. October is what comes to mind. So it's not like it hasn't been a substantial amount of time. It was long before we had any problems down there.
Right.
We were already looking at this. Under number 4, I contacted West Tech for the update on the survey. I got an email from the surveyor. Their schedule is Monday, the 26th through Thursday, the 29th for field work. They have to go out and do door hangers and stuff, so I know they'll be down there on property surveying everything. So that's planned for that. They won't get the project deliverable, the CAD survey done to give to the engineers till the first part of August, into July, first part of August. So that's kind of where we're at on the survey, and that was to look for a piece of property to locate a pump station down there. So it'll be August, September before we get anything back on that. We already covered the ocean outfall, but it did pass inspection, no loose nuts, bolts. It was in good shape. There isn't, I have one more thing, not on the district report. 1A just gave it to me. Her and Aaron have been working on this. It was about how to do donations for that one fund that we have. And our software does not do that. They're not set up to do it, something we're not on the cloud, but they're not set up to do it. They don't have enough clients that do that, just where you can add a button and click and you can add money to it. And because it has to hit when people pay online, it has to hit our GL. So it has to go right through our software. Our software's not able to do it. So what they came up with was basically a third party, another company. It's expensive. It's $1 per processing fee to run the card for donation. Invalid account, $7. Another NSF fees, $14. Customer stop payment, return fees, $30. Support maintenance and hosting fees, $35 a month. Setup is $500 to set it up on our website.
For a third-party collection?
To collect, yeah, so that people can pay. There's $6,000 in that fund, and if somebody donates $1, and it costs $1 to process it, so we're not going to be able to do it through automatic debit or credit card charge.
Could I recommend that we explore in all the special districts? As a group, is use some kind of link you can put on the website that clicks and goes to the central collection team, if they've already got arranged and they allocated.
Yes, we can certainly do that and find out if there's a cost with it. What I suggested to 1A and Aaron today was that we make it known that we have this fund and people can donate to it, but they're gonna have to either mail us a check, bring us cash, or something like that to go into that fund. But we say we still offer it, but if we don't get any, and we don't usually get a lot of payments on that. Usually it's people that receive the postcard payments. So they manually enter it when they receive the check and say, here's your monthly fee, here's $3 towards donation. So then they can separate that manually. And we can still offer that, but it's going to take a little more to look into that. But we can certainly call other districts, other places.
I just think, just find out if special district provides that service in some way, so that if one third-party vendor,
Right.
their link goes on your website.
Well, it's like when we found that SDAO offered, Streamline gives you a discount to manage your website. We get a large discount through SDAO and through Streamline.
So,
And I think we should even talk to Streamline about that too, because they manage our websites. There might be, fire stations, there might be other water or other districts like you just said that aren't doing. So, but anyway, that's what we initially found out. This is what they got from Springbrook. This is not cost effective.
No, but in the meantime, will we put a note on the payment site that just says?
Yeah, so I think that if the board wants, we can still let them know it's available. It's just that it's nothing that they can do automated. They can call and process a card or something just by calling if they want to donate. But
Well, my position on it is that we need to make sure that people understand that this is available.
yeah,
Not only for a beneficiary, but for people that donate. So whether to come up here and write a check, probably be good public relation.
yeah, or they can mail it or put it in the
See what
Dropbox,
we
but
got going up here.
yeah, but we'll just put it on the website, and
Right.
we'll let everybody know that we have that program. It's just, as we phase out the postcards, the mailing postcards for your sewer bill, that will eventually go away. We have a lot of them switching over to online payments. So, there's not that many that, other than they send the automatic payments by check, but there's no way to separate that.
I still think it would be best if it could be on the online system the way you were checking for. I completely agree that it's cost prohibitive.
it is cost prohibitive under this one,
Yes,
so.
yeah.
And it's taken them quite a while just to get this far. And Springbrook has tried, I mean, they went through everything. There's just no toggle to switch to turn that on. We'll still work with Springbrook, find out if there's other options or other options we can do at our end, so.
Does the, I don't remember, but does the postcard that is sent out, it has a place on it that you
Yeah.
can make
Yeah.
that additional contribution?
Yeah, you can write on the postcard how much, and then you just make your check out for the full amount, and they separate that when they receive the payment. And that'll still be available. It's just gonna be a little more inconvenient to collect it if somebody wants to donate. Okay. If there's no question on the pumps, we already have the pump. The new pump is here and it is installed. So, I did negotiate on the pump. It was $11,500, and I told him I had a $10,000 spending limit, so we got it for $9,800, because he didn't want to wait for the board meeting, so.
Good.
That's the tact I usually use with them.
Good negotiation.
Hey, John.
You done?
Does the board have any questions?
Questions? All right. Rainfall's been rather dry.
Yeah, that's pretty much just flows.
0.01 on Friday, May 26th.
But if you're looking at the flow chart, you'll see the difficulty in running the treatment plant without those kind of flows up and down.
Yeah. All right. Takes us to old business. Resolution 2303, a resolution establishing a new fund called the Low Income Assistance Program Fund. Can I have a motion to approve resolution 2303?
I will move that we approve resolution 2303, establishing a new fund called the Low Income Assistance Program Fund.
I'll second that.
Any discussion or questions? I know we brought this before the board last month, and I didn't receive any additional inputs, so this is basically the same model as what we had last month. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Next item is 2304. A resolution establishing a newly revised program called the Low Income Assistance Program. And motion to accept or approve resolution 2304.
I move that we approve resolution 2304, establishing a newly revised program called the Low Income Assistance Program.
Second.
I second.
And I would just call your attention to section 13, which I know Simeon, you've been quite a proponent of. And it's important that stays up front, even though it's towards the rear of the resolution, as far as notifying the public of the program and the opportunity there. Any other questions? Discussion? All in favor of approving resolution 2304, say aye.
Aye.
New business. Resolution 2301A, imposing the tax. Motion to accept resolution 2301A.
I'll move to accept resolution 2301A, imposing the new tax.
Second,
I'll second that.
Discussion, questions?
Not 100% sure I understand that. This is the existing tax that we're reimposing every year? Is that what happens here?
No. These are delinquent accounts that are turned in for
Okay.
tax collection.
So that's the.
This is different every year.
Okay.
And it's subject to change.
So the
That's something
resolution
that-
has the amount that is then specified in resolution 2302.
But they have until the end of the month to pay, so there could be a couple more payments.
So you have to authorize it with any changes that come.
Okay. Got it.
It'll be a max of this, if anything, it will drop. Payments coming.
All in favor, say aye.
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 It's approved unanimously. And we have resolution 2302, which is the actual delinquent accounts. I believe, right?
And it's called a tax because the county is collecting the money.
Yeah, it'll go on property tax.
Motion to approve 2302.
I move to approve resolution 2302.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Pam's on seasonal one.
I'm
I
sorry.
was looking for her name. It's the first year, I think.
She paid it, huh?
Yeah, she's not in the list.
She probably heard a little voice or something.
She's not, she's good. She was good last time.
So, on page 2, down the end, that just keeps adding up each year. The Netarts cottages,
Well, they're not, that's just what they owe us.
is that from 1 year or? is
Yeah,
it-
so this is annual, and
Right, okay.
after
Got it.
you approve this, it's assigned to the county, it zeroes their account. July 1 is 0.
So that's just their user fees.
Yeah.
That's their more.
And then it starts all over.
Okay. All right. All in favor of approving and accepting resolution 2302, say aye.
Aye.
Then that brings us to ordinance 2301, an ordinance establishing a sanitary sewer user fee increase effective July 1st, 2023, and declaring an emergency. All right. What apparently happened here is we should have had our first reading back in May. Actually, we're thinking that we should have had it back in April. It takes 2 readings, and then normally this would be applied 30 days after the second reading. Okay, so this, we had never done the 30-day window before, but we are a month, even a month late in view of what we've done in the past with the first reading. So by declaring an emergency, our attorney has said that he believes that we would be operating correctly if we have a emergency meeting next week for the second reading, which would be the only purpose of the emergency meeting, and then go ahead and apply the $5 increase on July the 1st. So,
As I recall, we tried to do this earlier, and there was concern people wanted to delay it. I don't know, Jim, was that you? We tried to do this earlier, and then we delayed it.
No.
Thought there was no
No,
problem.
it-
Was that something else?
This one just fell through the cracks.
Okay, no, I wasn't for blame, I just wanted to try to reconstruct this in my head. I thought that we had actually looked at time more closely and figuring out, but that was something else. So I'm fine.
so,
So we've gone through legal counsel, and you can declare this. There has to be 2 readings of the ordinance. And the ordinance is supposed to be 30 days apart. And then after your second reading, it takes effect in 30 days. Our budget ends on the 30th. We would have no operating budget July 1. So you have to wait 7 days, you can call an emergency, which I'll send out the information for a Teams meeting for next Thursday.
And that was also in Tuesday's Headlight Herald.
Right. And then that will be your second reading, and in that reading, it'll say to go in effect July 1.
So in the reason that our attorney believes that this meets the requirement is declaring an emergency, which we are doing, the last part of that ordinance phrase. So, other than just reading the heading of the ordinance, I don't know that we need to read the whole text.
You do not have to read the whole text. I think you only have to read the first 2 lines at the top.
Okay.
That's capitalized.
Right. So this is ordinance 2301, an ordinance establishing a sanitary sewer user fee increase effective July 1st, 2023, and declaring an emergency. It says board action. I don't know, other than this is approval of the first reading, I don't know that there's a board action, really, I don't think. It's
It's a meeting.
presenting it at the meeting.
It's not the public, it's really.
Yeah.
It's really busy with public, not guys.
Any discussion?
I understand why we're doing it, and I think we need to do it. It's a good idea. We need to learn a lesson and not need to declare an emergency the next time we're in this situation.
I agree. Because I remember last year, I signed the ordinance, which was the $8. I think that was that the $8 increase last year?
I don't remember, you did sign the one last year.
Yeah, and we did have 2 readings. I went back and looked. We did it in May and June, but we didn't do the 30 days. And I don't know.
But this cleans that up. You want to
Yeah.
tell about section
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. So
So there's a change in this in section 2 that John can explain.
we'll know better to comply with the standard procedure in the next cycle, should there be another rate increase. If there's not, then this will just pass through next year.
We won't do another ordinance. That's what section 2 covers by resolution after this.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
That's right.
yeah. If you look at section 2, it will no longer do the ordinance, it will be, every year will be by resolution.
In the future, maybe amended, find a resolution. or
Yes. Yes.
Partial.
Yes.
Looking at resolutions.
Yeah. So there'll be no reason for 2 months and 2 readings.
And yes, we had some discussion with the attorney over ordinances versus resolutions and what you can or can't do with either one. But I guess our attorney said he's had a number of other clients, and they've basically followed the same process to allow for future resolutions to modify.
Did you happen to mention whether there's a done?
Excuse me?
Did you happen to mention whether there's a different emergencies in similar situations or not? And they haven't had any objection?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, my discussion with him was, that's what triggered this, to rewrite the ordinances to include by resolution.
And said other people had done it too. So I thought, I wondered if other people had also.
Well, he referred to what we did with the SDCs. And we had an ordinance, and then we had 3 resolutions, and it was decided we could change a resolution without having to change the ordinance. And he said this was the same thing, and we kind of said, well, yes and no. we have existing resolutions and an ordinance, but our attorney is comfortable with this language, and we kicked it around, changed it, and then changed it back to what he had proposed.
And this shows more consistency on our ordinances for fees, SDCs by resolution, user fees by resolution, so it shows more of a consistency.
And if there's no other questions,
There's no vote on this.
we will just have the
Just a reading.
second reading next Thursday at 5:30, and people just want to call in or be on the computer, that's fine.
That's the only thing on the agenda for next Thursday's meeting.
Yeah.
It's probably a 5-minute meeting.
Yeah.
I lived in Ashland, but I will put on the calendar. Critical one.
Excuse me?
As if we would just have to have them come in and sign it.
If somebody doesn't come up, or come in videos, you still need to come sign.
Okay. Well, everybody doesn't have to sign, right? Just,
No.
yeah, I'll be here. And I don't know how we set it up with countersigns. I don't think. Okay.
But we can change it if we.
Are you around next week?
Yeah.
Come in and sign.
Great.